locals.
I want to. Okay, so here it was. Okay, so they spent. I wrote. They spent 70 years convincing Americans to open its borders to Muslims. Then they weaponized the Christian impulse to treat others how you want to be treated against us. Now they'll provoke enmity between the two cultures because a house divided cannot stand. Divide, conquer, then bring order out of the chaos. We will all fall for this manipulation. So,
when did you tweet this?
Yesterday. So
Okay.
it came to me because I was watching the Somalian stuff and in Minnesota, and Rob's in Minnesota. So I'm watching that stuff happen, and I'm like, this stuff's been going on for a decade, right, Rob? It's been happening for like a decade, the fraud there.
I mean, for sure, at least a decade.
Like it's this whole system that they're doing over there. They're basically just pumping these federal funds into there for these programs. They go and they set up a daycare that they're getting $2-3 million a year to provide care for 70-80 children, and nobody even goes to them. They have hospital care centers where people are supposed to be bringing the elderly to the hospital. They have all these vans set up, and the vans just sit there parked, but they're collecting all this money. They
have restaurants saying they feed 4,000 kids a day. They feed 50 people a month.
It's just this whole system of fraud going on. There have been people who tried to break this story years ago, and it just went nowhere. And what I was watching in the videos, the manipulation, I wasn't so because what I'm seeing a lot of is Christians getting angry that there's all these Muslims here now, right? Rightfully so. Like, we let all these freaking Muslims flood our country, but it seemed like while the flooding was going on, we weren't even allowed to talk about it. Like this whole issue just started coming up in the last couple of years, that were like race, Islam, the Jews, all this stuff has really come to prominence in the last 2 years, especially. Trump kind of broke that conversation with build the wall. But even when he was talking about build the wall, like, I don't think I was as conscious of like our country really being taken over by foreigners and stuff. But then in the past 2 years, watching the whole thing with Indians flooding the country, especially like the Diwali celebrations, then you have the Muslims all over, and I'm watching what's happening in Minnesota, and I'm seeing Christians getting very angry. There was this one Christian group that went there, and they were like actually protesting, and you're seeing Christians starting to get angry. Like, we're all this talk of Christian nationalism. Like, why are we letting non-Christians even play a role in government right now? This conversation has really come to the surface. It's everything Nick Fuentes is talking about, is Joel Webbin's talking about it. Taylor Marshall just wrote a book, Christian Patriot. All of this stuff, we're trying to figure out like, what does a Christian nation look like? And now we have these Muslims here, right? And through this whole fraud story, what I am seeing is anybody else that's going there to talk to these people, the Muslims aren't talking about it in a way where it's like trying to defend the fraud. They are coming at it going, you hate Muslims. You're trying to put us in internment camps. And they're perceiving it as like this holy war. Like, they're seeing it as Christians trying to kill Muslims.
Well, I think it's more like they're gaslighting us when they're the ones who really hold to that ideology.
Right. It's Takia is what it is.
Yeah,
doctrine of Takia.
Yeah, they come in, they get a big, like, as they get bigger, they start to take positions of government. And while they're in a Christian nation, they act like they're just, we're just pals. But as soon as they have the power, they come in and they enforce their Sharia law, whatever they can.
Right.
But the way the narrative is being handled is what is making me feel like we're like the Nick Sorter, was it Nick Sorter or Nick Shirley? Nick Shirley's story. The way that thing exploded felt inorganic to me. This is a kid who had like 1,000 Twitter followers. He went and did it was a 40-minute long video. It wasn't like, people's attention span sucks these days. And out of nowhere, this thing got 100 million views. And it's like out of like, and Elon buying Twitter and him coming in and seeming like the savior figure who bought Twitter and allowed free speech to happen again. And it just seems like the whole thing is freaking orchestrated to get us to go to war with one another, like in some form or fashion. And my worry is, because a lot of us are like, we're Americans, like, we got guns. We don't care. You want to come at us? Like, come at us. You're not going to win that war in America, but you're not really going to be fighting the Muslims. You're going to be fighting the intel agency that's propping up this artificial
So
bullshit.
why do you think the intel agencies want to provoke civil war in the U.S.?
So, Rob, this goes back to everything. Remember when we were talking about immigration in the first place? And I'm like, because the narrative was always, oh, they're opening the borders to get Democratic votes. And I'm like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, that, no way is that what this is really about. What this is really about is disintegrating our culture. It's to degrade American culture, right? The whole thing is that. So they bring these foreigners in so that you don't even know your neighbor anymore. There's nothing to unify us anymore. And it was the reason this came to me is because it's conversations we've had on this show that just all kind of seem to be like clicking into place for me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we've been wondering, like, what is this, right? We've talked about it where it's like Americans don't actually have a culture anymore. There's not even...
Never did.
No, look, like we talked, like after 9/11, like you had unity.
No,
was like a nostalgic
that's not a
unity.
culture. That's an anti-culture.
Yeah, for sure. But there was still stuff that felt like you had something in common with your neighbor. So like when World War II came about, Americans rallied around the flag, right? When Pearl Harbor is bombed, everybody wants to fight for their country and they have this patriotic view. But what they did with this immigration is flood it to the point where you have absolutely nothing in common with anybody anymore. Your neighbors are Muslims or they're whatever. They don't speak the same language as you. They don't have the same. There is an American culture. It's, like it's very Protestant. It's very pop culture based, but we don't even have pop culture to unite us anymore because you don't have 3 major news networks anymore, right? It's not like you're even going into work and talking about the latest Seinfeld episode that everybody watched the night before, because we're all on our devices watching a different thing than the guy next to us. And none of us even, your kids, they know people that you have no clue who they are. Like they're watching some YouTuber that you are like, who the hell is that guy? Like it's just such a degraded culture at this point that was the whole point. It wasn't about
the whole
votes,
point of what?
Of trying to break down America so that, because it is easier to divide us and then conquer us. And then you come in with a strong figure.
So who's orchestrating it?
I don't know. I think this is like real Illuminati shit. Like I really do. I think this is what the whole point of the Freemasons.
If you're saying like it's the preternatural work of demons through human agents, sure. Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Well, okay, so all right now. Okay,
but if you're saying the U.S. government who can't,
no, I don't think it's the U.S. government. I don't think it's the U.S. government. I think it's all right. So all right, now my thoughts on this have even evolved, right? Because going through the Venezuela stuff and the intel agencies down there and all that stuff, what you realize is, because a lot of times you have this idea of they, and you think there's some unified group of oligarchs controlling and pulling the strings from behind the scenes, right?
Different groups of elite fight.
That's what it is, right?
Yes.
It's different factions
even within the intel agencies, right?
Even within the intel agencies, right? So when you saw the whole thing with Trump go down in 2016, these were intel agencies warring with each other, and what you had, because this is so hard to even like gather into coherent thought right now. There's so many things going on. So you had this apparatus in other countries for censorship. It was like this censorship apparatus in other countries, and this was run through the NGOs like USAID and like the National Endowment for Democracy. This is all stuff I learned from like listening to Mike Benz about how we would control narratives in other nations to send NGOs in. They would foment revolution on the ground, and they would overthrow whatever government they would want to do. They would make it seem organic, like it was just this democratic uprising, but really they were pulling the strings the whole time. They turned that system in on America when Trump ran in 2016. So there was like this, but it wasn't just one entity. There were different entities warring with each other and having factions. And
I guess, do you recognize that this is absolutely nothing new? I'm talking about like this goes back The Romans would use different, groups of elites and tribes to war against the other Gallic tribes and things like that. Like this is nothing new, right? You acknowledge that.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. But I think it's building towards something. Like, I think that's what, like, I think you get frustrated with me saying, like, this is building towards something. Like, and I think, like, very seriously building towards something. So that's why I'm saying with the Venezuela stuff, with all this stuff, I have two minds about it. But so they turned that system in on us during the Trump election, and Trump gets in, upsets the one faction. But that's why you had, like, Obama's deep state basically framed Trump during that time, right? The Russia collusion stuff. Like, you have Obama's deep state framing Trump. You go through the whole Russia collusion thing. They steal the freaking election. Then you come back to 2024. Trump wins. And now we all wanted Trump to clean out the deep state. But Trump doesn't actually clean out the deep state. What he does is he cleans out Obama's deep state. And we still have the other faction of the deep state still in there.
I think we should try to define what these factions are, who they are, maybe what they work for. Like, when you say Obama's deep state, I take that to mean, like, the globalists who want to uphold, like, the liberal institutional world order that started in World War II. Whereas now it's like the faction behind Trump seems to be like billionaire technocrats, right?
Yeah, and
then you have, like,
pushing more
the
like
Russian.
They're pushing more like the Monroe Doctrine stuff, right?
Right, yeah.
So like, it's a difference in foreign policy and stuff like that. But I also think, like, there's a big element of, so, like, when we talk about the CIA, like you were saying, like, there's warring factions within the State Department, within the CIA, and all that stuff. There's almost no separation of the Mossad from the CIA. Like, they are basic, and MI6, like, they're all basically like one.
There's a lot of separation.
There's factions between them. There's hiding from each other. Like,
right. There's factions within them that all work like, you'll have a faction of the CIA that works within a faction of MI6, but
yes,
you'll also have factions within CIA that absolutely work against factions within MI6, and the relationship between the Western powers and Mossad has always been iffy, because Mossad will totally run an operation that kills CIA agents, and vice versa. But there is always some connection.
What really gets tricky is when you have dual citizenship Jews who have dual loyalties, and their main loyalty is to Israel. But either way, all this stuff, like, even with Venezuela, right? You're talking about there were 25 years of CIA ops going on in Venezuela. These are, like, off book ops. This is stuff where, like, because the president can't be seen to know about these things, so they have to have, like, off book ops going on. They've been trying to overthrow Venezuela for 25 years. Not like major attempts, but, like, really shady stuff where, like, Richard Branson would throw a concert in Colombia right on the border with Venezuela, like a Taylor Swift concert or something like that. And USAID trucks would go in looking like they're bringing in humanitarian aid, and meanwhile they're loaded with arms and munitions, and they're trying to start a freaking revolution in the country. There was this Operation Gideon that happened, where there was a guy who ran, like, a private mercenary group, and they basically went in 2020. He thought he had all his freaking connections in place with spies inside of Maduro's government, and he goes to pull the trigger, but before he does, Mike Pompeo shuts down the embassy in Venezuela. Now, a U.S. embassy is basically like a staging point for CIA ops.
So, each embassy will have a CIA station chief that runs agents out of the embassy. Yeah,
it's basically like a staging point for CIA ops. It's like I think Jeffrey Sachs has a quote. He said, "Do you know why the American government has never been overthrown? Because they don't have a U.S. embassy in the United States. Like, the U.S. embassy throughout all these different countries, they're basically just base operations for CIA ops in these different countries. So Mike Pompeo shuts down the embassy in Venezuela, and this guy just gets hung out to dry. And he's live tweeting in the midst of this military coup and trying to tell people, we have boots on the ground. We have CIA has your back. And he's live tweeting. Like, when the hell does the CIA like, when does, like, remember that article I posted, that screen grab where I was like, Trump authorizes CIA operations in Venezuela? That article is written so that the guys inside of Maduro's government that the CIA was working with, it's like to encourage them, like, hey, no, CIA has your back, like, continue with the coup. The whole coup winds up failing, and they pin it all on this one guy.
It's just the Bay of Pigs over again.
It's called the Bay of Piglets.
Yeah.
It's called the Bay of Piglets because it went as sour as the Bay of Pigs. Like, it's that's what happened. They call this operation the Bay of Piglets. So now Trump comes in his second term. Like, he was trying to do this throughout his whole first term. Like, you see all these guys had like this whole, they wanted to get this done. Trump comes in his second term, and now this has been going on for 25 years. They're trying to flip Venezuela, and Trump's just got the balls to go in and just come to it. We'll send a Delta team in. Bro, like, this Delta team, it is some Mission Impossible crap what they did. Like, they freaking stormed this place with like all these helicopters and freaking F-35s, and they go in and they got this guy within like an hour and a half. They built a fake military base that Maduro was staying in. Like, they built a fake one in America with the exact blueprints. They had spies on the inside telling them exactly what room Maduro is in. They freaking went in.
They knew the gauge of steel. They knew they practiced how long it would take to burn through.
Dude,
turns out they got to it before he could even lock it.
Before he could even lock it, like, they knew this building blindfolded. That's how well, like, it was just, dude, it is just nuts how this freaking operation went off. So now, part of me is like, okay, like this new faction that's in wants to do basically Monroe Doctrine really hard, right? So there's like this whole thing with Trump taking Greenland, now us getting our guy in Venezuela, but also what happens in Venezuela, the reason they want to flip it is like it has a lot to do with control of the oil is a very big part of it, right? But that's not all it is. It's like, once you flip something like this, you now get all these big corporations go in, and they're basically going to just like bleed the country dry. And it's like, you got to get rid of all the mom and pop stores. We're going to put a Walmart in. You're going to get rid of this, and we're going to put a Pizza Hut in, and we're going to Americanize the crap out of Venezuela.
Well, let's be fair. All that stuff was already killed by the communists there. Like, we're not.
Yeah,
I'm not glazing Amazon or Walmart or anything like that. But we're not replacing mom and pop shops. Mom and pop starved to death 10 years ago when they were told to eat their bunnies.
I'm talking about like when this happens in any country. This is
yeah.
Like generally, this is kind of what happens, right? So now there is $17 trillion in oil there. You don't want Russia and China in this area doing their crap. So like, you do want Venezuela to be under American control, and you do want to kick Russia and China out of there. You also do want us to get Greenland, because Rob, you were telling me like that is actually where
you can't you don't see it when you look at a normal what do they call it, Mercator projection maps, the flat maps. But if you look at a globe, Russia puts all their strategic assets, their submarines, their strategic bombers, their missiles up on like the up by near Murmansk, up on the Kola Peninsula at the very north part of Russia. So they would all their aircraft, their missiles, all of it would have to go over the North Pole and right over Greenland to get to the U.S. You don't see it when you look on a map, but Greenland is between the northern parts of North America and Russia. So any flight, any missile has to go over Greenland. Like when a ballistic missile launches and flies, they're called that because they take a ballistic arc, right?
Yeah,
it's
following the curve of the Earth.
Yeah, and they reach about 100,000 feet, right? So they're well, actually no, ballistic missiles they generally actually enter space, so about 100 miles up. The best place to intercept that is at the apogee, the top of that arc. That the top of a ballistic missile arc from Russia is right over Greenland.
Right over
So if
Greenland.
you're going to put any aircraft interceptors to intercept their bombers, any ballistic missile interceptors, all of that has to go. Well, we used to have it all in Canada, right? Canada
Yeah.
was part of NORAD, but if you don't trust Canada anymore, your only other option to protect the U.S. from Russia and actually China too, because most missiles from China would have to go over the pole. The only option is Greenland.
Yeah.
And then
And
all the
you don't,
Russian
you don't,
submarines have to go through what they call the Greenland, Iceland, UK gap to get
Yeah.
into the North Atlantic. So if you no longer trust Iceland in the UK and your European allies to protect that gap, you need then the other piece, the Greenland piece.
Yeah, and we're like beefing with Canada right now, right? Like Trump pulled all those stunts early on, and that's why they got that freaking idiot in Canada and stuff. Like there's just so much that goes into this. So part of me is like, okay, yes, like let's shore up the hemisphere. Like I like the Monroe Doctrine. I like it way better than us meddling over in Iran and us meddling over in the Middle East. Like I don't care about any of that stuff, but I kind of do like this idea of hemispheric protection, right? But it also feels like they're really gearing up for hemispheric war, man. Like, and Rob, you were saying like that's kind of inevitable, right?
Well, we're now in a multipolar world. We're not in the unipolar or bipolar era, when it was, the Cold War, when it was US and Russia, and then after the Cold War up until recently, it was just the US. Now you have US, you have China, you have Russia. India thinks they might enter that arena.
Yeah, you're looking at the BRICS
I think that's
nations versus the NATO
ridiculous.
nations, essentially, right? That's
Right. And now you have Europe, which might come together and actually be some sort of opponent to the US again too. Like you're entering a multipolar era, and
dude. I'm just like we are entering into some crazy stuff right now. That's all I'm saying, right? So now, if you're looking at this from the point of like, who wants us to open our borders? Who wants to flood the West with immigrants? It's Israel. Like Israel really wants to flood the West with immigrants. They really do. Like because they looked at it like what happened in Germany was you got this sense of national pride, and they started seeing what the Jews were doing with their financial system and stuff. And that's kind of what put this opposition up against Israel. So Israel wants the West to be these multicultural democracies, because the Jews kind of blend in when you have a multicultural democracy. They don't stand out as these odd figures. And
what Israel really wants, it's the same thing like your globalists want, is they want so in international relations, you have two main schools of thought. That's the liberal school of thought and the realist school of thought. In international relations, they mean different things than what like liberal usually means and stuff. Liberalism in the international school of thought is the idea that you can run the world through institutions, right? Through NGOs, through the UN, through all these different institutions of nations and peoples working together. Israel wants that to kind of continue, right? Because the other option is the realist school of thought, where each nation is playing this zero-sum game, right? And each nation actually takes its own interest to heart, and will actually protect itself and work to improve itself at the cost of other nations. It's like the way the world worked prior to World War II, basically. And when you have nations working for their own interest, that means they're potentially working against Israel's interest.
Yeah.
That means if the U.S. is working for its own interest, it's not going to work for Israel's interest, and that scares it.
Yeah, what I got from the EMJ stuff, I'll tell you where I agree with him, where I disagree with him. Like I agree with him in that we're coming to the end of this third republic. Like we're the World War II narrative has worn off. Right, the Holocaust narrative is over. There's going to be something else that happens. You're also dealing with the Jews are in they're coming up on their 80-year mark, which is basically the length of any kind of Jewish state. You go back to the Kingdom of David, it lasts 80 years and then it kind of disintegrates. What I think is we opened our borders because Israel convinced us to open our borders. It happens in the 1960s. That's when we start opening the floodgates and we allow millions of foreigners to come in. It really picked up steam under the Biden administration in ways will blow your mind. Then on top of that, you add in that Christians and Americans are not having children, and it just kind of puts this situation of having Christians and Muslims are now look. The thing with America is like the Muslim population still is like less than 1%. They're just concentrated in major cities, but like 99.9% of the country is no Muslims. You know what I mean? It's just they're very highly concentrated in these cities. But I do think the narrative, like especially the past 2 years where you have all this enmity coming back up against the Jews, they will try to provoke enmity between Muslims and Christians within the United States to try and disintegrate the United States. Because while we're dealing with this multipolar world and we're trying to shore up and get the Monroe Doctrine, like I think Israel thinks they are a polar power. In a sense, they are a contender in this polar power, right?
Because right now, the only truly sovereign nations in the world are those with nuclear weapons. And Israel, even though they have never acknowledged it and we don't know official numbers,
we know
it's estimated they have around 200 nuclear warheads. Right. And that puts them above.
Don't we know that for certain that they have nukes?
Oh, they definitely have.
They've never acknowledged it. But yeah, we know they have nukes.
But what I see, even when you look at the biblical narrative, Rob, is Israel sees America as the Roman Empire. And they don't just want they want to rule the American empire. Like they want to run Rome. So I think they're trying to build up enmity to divide so that they can conquer and they can then bring order out of the chaos. So when I say like who's doing this, like I do essentially mean Israel because they've been the power brokers, but there are different factions within Israel where they're on some sides of this war and they're on some other side. It's not like there's just one Israel doing all of this, but essentially I do think it is Israel that wants to rule the Roman Empire, which is now America. And I think that we are heading towards something apocalyptic. Like I've always felt that. That's just kind of how I see it. I think we're going to be at war with Russia, with China, and all of this is just Trump. Like Trump on one hand, I think this is really smart. And I think if we are at war with Russia and China, this is a really smart move and I really like it. What worries me the most is the tensions within the United States and us going to have a civil war within the United States more than the war with them.
Right. But we do need to deal with the Muslims.
I know we do. No, like that's where I disagree with EMJ completely. Like there is no unity with these people.
No.
There's just no you cannot form an alliance with the Muslims.
Is that what Michael Jones claims that we can have some kind of alliance?
That's what he said on our show.
He's like, don't let. So look, and I'll give him this. Like I do work with a couple of Muslim guys, and the only thing that unites us is when we see the Jews behind everything. So it's like when you have that common enemy, right? So like Christians and Muslims can work together against the Jews, but then they'll just go to war with each other anyway.
Well, and the thing is, like,
it's an inevitable conflict that's coming between Muslims and Christians. But I think
in the modern era, we tend not to realize that it's usually the Jews and the Muslims working together against the Christians.
In the modern world, but really that enmity is
I mean historically.
Yeah.
Historically, it was the Jews and Muslim, there's the whole Gates of Toledo thing and stuff like that, but Jews had pretty high places in many Muslim governments.
Yeah. So my Muslim friend that I work with, he's like, you don't understand. He goes, you're dealing with these Muslim nations. He's like, the Jews run these Muslim nations. Like they control the Muslim nations too. Because all of the Muslims in power are taking bribes and they want to have money and they want to be wealthy and they want to play power games and they know you got to play the game.
The Gulf states, they definitely have relations with Israel. Iran, not so much, but
yeah, right, exactly. But that's why they want to topple. That's why they want regime change in Iran. They want regime change in Iran because Iran won't play games with them. But every other country that we toppled is run by the Jews now, right? Like Iraq and Syria and all these countries now have, like, we were literally fighting with the guy who took over.
I think Iraq is largely more allied with Iran at this point. They're mostly Shia.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know enough about it, but I know in Syria we did regime change in Syria.
Yeah, that was largely Israel. Yeah,
And it's 100% Israel. Like
Yeah.
they're literally being the broom of, they're doing Israel's bid. Like the guy who took power in Syria was our enemy like a couple of years ago, and he just changed his group's name.
He's ISIS.
He's basically ISIS, and they put him in power, and he's playing their games with them. So when I worry about happening in America is that you're not going to be fighting Muslims, you're going to be fighting the power behind them. And it's not going to, and they're going to be providing them arms, just like USAID was providing arms to the rebels down in Venezuela. You're going to have these secret ops coming and delivering arms and ammunitions to whatever rebel group decides to throw a fit in America. And they will foment revolution on the streets. Like, do not think that cannot happen in America. It absolutely can. It won't be like the Civil War.
We've talked about it every
line.
Adrian and I have talked about it every Monday for like the last month.
Yeah, like don't think you're not gonna have a Mason-Dixon line that divides us. You're going to have these outbursts of violence in the city, and you're going to have these covert operations delivering arms to these people, and there's going to be rebels in America. And like partly what you and Adrian are talking about is really important, because how the hell are you going to defend your family when this shit happens? Because it is definitely going to happen, and it's going to happen like in the next decade.
Yeah.
Like this is not some like 30 years from now thing. This is going to happen. There's going to be rebel factions in the streets of America. Now, that doesn't mean in rural America if you're out in the middle of nowhere, but in the major cities where you have these high concentrations of Muslim populations, I think there will be.
I don't think you'll see. It's going to be what's called low intensity conflict. So think of like the Charlie Kirk assassination. Think of that. Remember a couple days after that, there was the guy that
people driving their cars
shot at
Christmas
the ice
parades.
It's going to be stuff like that, a couple times a week, all across the country, but for months. Like it's not going to get to the point where you get to not go to your day job. You know what I mean? Like
no, it'll be very isolated. And you won't know where something's going to happen. It's not going to be like
95% of your life will still be normal.
Yeah,
but you'll never know when that other 5% is going to hit.
It can pop off anyway. It's going to be acts of terrorism, things like that. But I'm just like, this is my fear for America, that because we have basically, and the thing is, like, it's not just going to be Muslims you're fighting. It's this race war that they're provoking too. All this stuff I've been talking about on social media. I'm like, they're trying to make me hate black people. Like they're trying to make me hate them. And I know they are, because it's like every other video is some black guy hurting an innocent white person. And I'm like, this isn't like really happening everywhere, but you'd swear it was if you're watching social media, right? So it's going to not be, you're not going to be Christians versus Muslims. It's going to be white people versus all the minorities that they've allowed to flow into our country. And it's not like every minority is going to be fighting against you, but that they're going to take a side, and there's going to be hostility between dude, this is what they are doing in America. I'm telling you, I'm watching it happen. And that was kind of where my thought was going when I tweeted that out, and you were kind of counter signaling me. Like I had all of this in my head, and I'm just like, I was just trying to get like a thought out, because I'm like, all right, I don't know, man. I was like, this is stuff we've been talking about for so long on the show, and it just seems like it's all culminating. Seems like it's all culminating together. And then the one thing the Venezuela stuff has done is it's got us to stop talking about the Jews, stop talking about this, and we're all focused on that right now, which, like I said, I'm of two minds about it. Like part of me is like, this is a really good thing, because we need to shore up our defenses. And the other thing is, if we are at war with China and Russia, like that could unify us, right? Like if we're actually at war with China, man, I'm sorry, I haven't let you say a word in all this. I'm just like,
I'm just processing. I haven't.
Good luck with that.
I don't know, man. I don't think I'm crazy for thinking this stuff. Like I really do see this as, and this is why the Trump stuff scares me too, because he is so freaking funny and charming sometimes, man. And then other times he's just going and doing whatever the hell Israel tells him to do. This is the most pro-Zionist administration I've ever seen in my entire life. And then other times I'm laughing my ass off because he's talking about how his wife thinks it's unpresidential for him to dance. And I'm just like, holy shit, this guy is hilarious, man. But like the Antichrist is going to be charming as hell, man. Like he really is. And I know, whatever. I just think like there's potential there. Like I've never seen worship of somebody. Like even this stuff with Venezuela, man. It's kind of like shored MAGA up. where like even the people who were like the Civil War, remember the Civil War that was in the Republican Party 2 weeks ago? That kind of seems to have dissipated. And what's so interesting is like I watched this happen with everybody when the Venezuela thing happened. I watched everybody fall in line behind their favorite influencer. So you have like the Dave Smith libertarians come out and they're like, this is just like Iraq. And then you have the Fuentes fans who are like, we're America, go screw yourself. We can do whatever the hell we want. And I didn't say a word because I'm kind of just watching everybody fall in line behind their favorite influencer. And I was just like, I kind of want to know what's going on here.
Have you seen the exchanges between Dr. Ed Fazer and Matt Walsh? That's interesting.
Yeah.
That too, right? And I'm watching Tim Gordon get involved. And I was watching, Majorian was like, I talked to Majorian yesterday about this stuff because the talking past each other, right? And Rob, you did that to me yesterday where you were like I said one thing about the intel agencies and you were like, so you're telling me the Venezuelan people aren't happy about Maduro getting out? And I'm like, I freaking said I like pancakes. You're telling me I hate waffles. I'm like, what is this? Like, that's not what I'm saying. I was basically what I just like said about the intel agencies was just all I was studying yesterday, right? So I was just listening to. I watched a freaking a conversation with the guy who got pinned with the blame for the Operation Gideon going wrong. He did a 2-hour interview with.
To be fair, you do have to take anything he says about it with a grain of salt, like you would anyone else.
Anything who said?
That guy.
No. I listened to Mike Benz breaking down the CIA stuff. Then I went and listened to Max Blumenthal do an interview with the guy who know.
That's what I mean.
Right.
You can't necessarily take everything he says about it.
Of course. But so that's why I'm trying to say, like, I'm trying to hear everybody's perspective, right? And not just like jump on a bandwagon because I know anything. Like, I don't know anything about Venezuela. Who the hell? I'm going to jump in and take a side in this stuff. Like, I don't know anything.
All I know is the White House tweeting out the video of the raid with Fortunate Son playing in the background.
It is
peak. It was amazing. I'm not going to say if
Trump
it's morally right or wrong. I don't know.
He knows how to troll. That's for sure.
He does know how to troll, right? And
I have a book recommendation for you guys. I think Anthony in particular. Have you ever heard of this book by Father Kramer, The Mystery of Iniquity?
No, but it sounds really intriguing. I would like to read that.
The Fatima Center published it years ago. I mean, I definitely don't agree with Father Kramer's position on Benedict's resignation and all that stuff, you know, kind of where he stands on things now. But this book has some very interesting things. He ties into he brings together the prophecies of various saints and blesseds, and obviously the message of Our Lady of Fatima in light of the geopolitical stuff, and it incorporates certainly the role of Israel. And he actually has a disclaimer, I think, at the beginning of the book, making sure that people know he's not anti-Semitic what does he say? Let me see if I can find it real quick.
That will just make them say he's anti-Semitic all that much more.
Right. Probably so.
Matt, the reason I never go down the prophecy road is because you actually don't need to. If you just look at scripture, right? Like if you understand the story of how, if you understand the story of Christ's first coming and how the Sanhedrin colludes with Rome to crucify the Messiah.
I brought that point up exactly when I interviewed Father Maudsley. It's the same thing happening again.
It's the same thing happening all over again. Like, this is just how typology unfolds. It's like that pattern is what will happen in the end, right? And you also have in the apocalypse, it talks about the whore riding the beast, drunk on the blood of the martyrs, right? Mm-hmm. Just that image alone. You have the beast returns, which is why we named the channel Avoiding Babylon, because Babylon returns, which is essentially the return, because Rome is the return of Babylon in the first century. So when John is writing his apocalypse, he's talking about the beast. He's talking about Babylon, but now Babylon has come about in Rome, right? Mm-hmm. And then at the end times, that beast will go. It's the beast that was, is not, and will return. So Babylon is the beast that was, is not, because we go through this period of Christian history where the beast is not, because God's spirit covers the earth, and then will return. Now the whore rides the back of the beast. So if America is that beast, if it is the return of Babylon, literally, like, there's never been a more powerful empire than the American empire. I'm sorry. And we just proved it in what we did in Venezuela.
We did prove that.
We proved listen, there's a lot of things that went on in Venezuela. There's a lot of South American countries that are getting a little cute. And Trump is basically like, oh, you think you're cute? I'll literally rob you out of your bed while you're asleep at night.
No, after turning off the power to your whole nation magically, somehow.
Like, like, this is the message Trump is sending. Like, you South American countries, you think you're cute. I will literally kidnap you in your sleep. You won't even know it hit you. You'll be in cuffs in the Southern District of New York tomorrow.
Only hours after you meet with the Chinese delegation that is still in the Capitol while you turn the power off.
Dude, I was in New York City. I was in New York City on Saturday when the choppers brought Maduro in. Whoa. And I'm talking to Bobby. I'm sitting with Bobby and Jim, and I'm like, yo, what the hell is going on? Where are all these choppers, bro? Like, it's you thought you thought something crazy was going on. And Bobby looks at me and he goes, bro, they're bringing Maduro into the Southern District of New York, right? They're bringing him into DEA,
which makes no sense to me. Like, why does New York have any part in this? I don't quite understand.
They have to charge them in some, in some district court.
And the Southern District of New York is the most corrupt court in the nation. This is where Epstein got off light on his sentence. This is where Comey's daughter runs the Southern District of New York. Like, there's so many, like, they're putting on this show trial for Maduro. He's going to put on all these motions he's going to try and put out and be like, they kidnapped me in my sleep. This isn't a fair trial. I have diplomatic immunity. They're going to pretend to go through all these motions. This guy's done. Like, I'm surprised they did it in New York because there's no death penalty in New York, but it is kind of like wild.
No, he's not, but he's being charged with federal crimes.
Correct. Yeah. So he can still get the death penalty.
Yes.
Yeah, he's charged federally.
So here, let me read let me just read a real brief excerpt here. I think this will whet your appetite for this book. So Father Kramer talks a lot about the alliance between Russia and China, but there's also going to be Islam is going to be in the alliances as well. He says the prophetic revelations made to Blessed Sister Elena Aiello confirm the earlier prophecies of St. John Bosco, Blessed Anna Maria Taiji, and others that there will be a great war waged against the Western nations by Russia, China, and the Islamic nations. And this is something I've argued in a talk I gave years ago at a Fatima Center conference called the end of Islam, Russia's future role. Like, I'm convinced that the reason why one reason why God has singled out Russia is because Russia is necessary in order to bring about the conversion of the Islamic nations. Like, there's a natural affinity between communism and Islam because they're both collectivist in their in their mentality. They're both I go through a lot of these things.
Both voluntarists. It's all the will to power in both of them.
Right, exactly. There's a lot of overlap there's a lot of ideological overlap between communism and Islam. So Father Kramer says most Westerners have no idea as to just how dangerous the geopolitical situation is. They have allowed themselves to be convinced that the United States is the world's only superpower, and therefore they believe the United States can exert its will wherever it wishes while remaining unchallenged by any other competitor.
Yeah, sounds awful. Look, and now you bring in what Malachi Martin said. Malachi Martin said, like, look, like, salvation will come from the East, right? Which is like, the Western church is such a mess right now that maybe we need a little chastisement from the East. So that's bringing the Russia equation in. It's also like, we are so due for a chastisement from God because we are the Christian West. We converted the world. We have abandoned our God. Like, it's as simple as that. And if you look at any period in salvation history, God always chastises his children because he loves them. So when I talk about this hemispheric war and we're going to war with Russia and China, like, part of me is like, look what we just did in Venezuela. Like, we could take anyone on. But the other part is you have to take into account the chastisement that is due to us. Like, now we're not Europe. Europe is really the Christian West, right? So Europe is really due the chastisement. It's not the same for America, where we abandoned our God in the same way because we're a Protestant nation. So I don't know exactly how it works out for us, but Europe is due Like they abandoned their God, man. And
Right, and that's I mean that's what Father Kramer discusses in his book as well, and I discussed in my 2017 talk. There are indications that Russia will invade the West at some point. So we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, look, there's also a connection between Our Lady appearing in Fatima, right? And Fatima is the only woman in the Quran that they speak positively about aside from Our Lady. So,
Right.
like, I think there's a connection there about maybe some kind of like at the end where Our Lady says her Immaculate Heart will prevail. There will be a mass conversion of Muslims, maybe, because they already have like a softness towards Our Lady. Like if you look to Zaytun or Zaitan in Egypt, like she brought peace to the Christians and Muslims there when she appeared, things like that. But
yeah, Archbishop Sheen talked about the significance of Our Lady appearing in Fatima, that it foreshadows a conversion of the Muslims for sure.
Yeah, look, now I'm always thinking in terms of like the spiritual chastisement we're doing. I'm always thinking in terms of the Christian story, and then I'm looking at just the geopolitical situation. I'm looking at the situation of politics in America and how fractured things are, and I'm looking at this so much of the fake stuff we see on social media and how easy they can manipulate us. Like all it takes is Elon to pump a story in the algorithm, and holy crap, man, dude, he responded to one tweet of mine. He put a smiley face under my tweet.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Got 11 million impressions, dude. Like it blew away anything I've ever tweeted before. And it's like this guy can literally just throw an emoji under a tweet and it has that effect. If he's pumping a story out and he has control of the algorithm itself, like he could literally just go boop and click that thing up and that thing goes wild. Like the amount of manipulation they are capable of at this point, it's worse than the three major news networks. Like Rob, you were saying like the media wasn't even covering the Somali fraud story. But the thing is, just because like the boomers don't watch it on Fox News or CNN doesn't mean the X algorithm, like X runs the news cycle now, right? So it affected it.
It runs the news cycle. Right. Yeah, you're right. The fact that it made a big on X forces it into the media. Even then, like,
I mean, dude, it was enough pressure to get Tim Walz to drop out of the race, right?
Right. But what I'm saying is, Tim Walz dropped out. 9 out of 10 people in Minnesota were surprised and had no idea why.
But they eventually got like that's the thing is like X runs the news cycle. So, and dude, if that story would have got 20 million views, it wouldn't have affected him. But because Elon can pump it, or because whoever wants to pump, like whoever is in control of that algorithm can pump a story so much that it gives them no free. Why do you think Elon bought Twitter? You really think it was about free speech? No, he understood what it was. It is the marketplace. It is the town square where Martin Luther can nail his 95 theses at this point. Like that is what we're talking about with Twitter. Twitter is where we are curating news. Like I don't get my news.
And speaking of the
else.
Apocalypse, I think Elon is a very concerning person.
I do too.
All his stuff with AI and robotics and Neuralink and all that stuff.
Matt, he comes in like this savior figure. He saves the world and gives us back our free speech. But meanwhile, he's just controlling what we're talking about. It's not really look, you don't have to worry about getting canceled anymore or suspended or losing your account, but he controls the conversation.
Well, as long as you're not being anti-Semitic or whatever.
That's not even true. That's what's even more interesting is the anti-Semitism that came up in the last 2 years, I think is manipulated. Nick Fuentes coming up and blowing up before all our faces is manipulated. Like, I think that all is being put. It's not organic. I mean, some of it is definitely.
That has been very interesting. It's like in my opinion, that's one of the most significant things in 2025 as far as the political conversation is the mainstreaming of Nick Fuentes,
but Matt,
being interviewed by Tucker and all that stuff.
2 years ago, me and Rob, when we discussed the Jews, we had to call them the Amish. Because they would have canceled our freaking channel. So we would talk about the Jews like very subtly, and we'd be like, oh, the Amish did this, and the Amish did this. And you wouldn't get banned because there's no Amish person on social media to complain, So it's like you could get away with stuff by calling them the Amish.
That shake bark is kind of close.
Shagbark.
Yeah.
But the idea that we're now allowed to openly deny the Holocaust on YouTube is insane. Like you can, it's in their terms of
that
service.
doesn't necessarily that doesn't make it inorganic.
No, I know. I'm just saying that the
I mean, you don't think
is
the
manipulated.
Overton window has truly shifted in some sense?
I think the Overton window has shifted because certain voices have been brought to prominence.
You don't think there's any possibility they just came to prominence due to demographic shifting and Zoomers becoming more prominent and aging up and things like that?
Dude, I just know this stuff was so well suppressed for so long. Like Nick was talking like this for years. It wasn't until Elon brings him back to Twitter, right? Elon brings him back to Twitter, and Nick like has like a year period where like the Daily Wire stuff. I'm not saying it's not organic. Like I think Nick is unbelievably talented, and I think that he absolutely gained notoriety. But dude, I'm talking in my freaking video. I know it's people I subscribe to. I know the algorithm is giving me what I want to see. But dude, it was wild. Like this kid went on a generational run, like nothing I've ever seen, where everybody they wanted to cut this kid out of the conversation, and all of a sudden it was like he was on every freaking big podcast, like every one of them. And it's like part of it is you know, just because they want to talk about the main kid, but part of it to me could be whatever. I'm not even saying it's like good or bad. Like I'm so grateful for it because I'm able to talk about these things now. Right. So like I'm happy that the Overton window is shifted, and I'm happy I'm able to actually get these thoughts out because these are things that I've been thinking for a long time, and I'm finally able to get them out. So I'm happy about the Overton window shift, but I'm also going, man, they are trying to brew up animosity against the Jews so that they can have another event, so that they can have another Holocaust, so that they can play the victim again. Like all that stuff is happening. That's how that's just kind of how I see it. So, yeah, dude, like Twitter feels like the Wild West again. Right? It kind of feels like you can get away with saying anything. It's fun. It's like you see Trent Horn literally freaking trying to mimic my tweeting style to promote his book. These guys all had something to say. These guys all had something to say. I'm a troll. It's not proper to use social media like that. Then Trent's got to sell a book. And what does he say? Catholics worship properly. Protestants don't worship God at all. It's like, dude, that is something I would say. And you would have criticized me for it in a video subliminally and not said my name.
Subliminally.
Been dealing with that crap for 2 years.
Has he ever engaged you directly?
We've had him on the show.
Been on the show twice.
Oh, but like, that's right. That was a long time ago.
But they got to a point when I started talking about when it stopped being cordial, I think, and it's not even not cordial. We haven't had an argument or anything. He stopped reaching out to me after I criticized him for going on that project that
Philos.
The Philos project. So Trent gave a talk at the Philos project, which is like these Hebrew Catholics. They're like this group of Hebrew Catholics who are trying to stop
it's a Zionist front group of some kind, right?
And he gave a talk there, and that was the first show where like I really was like, look, you see what they're doing. They're trying to gobble up Catholic voices to get them to be a very pro-Zionist move. And then all of a sudden, Matt Fradd goes over to the Daily Wire. And I'm like, this stuff has to be talked about. Like, I don't really care anymore. Then I'm just like, have Father Maudsley on. I don't care. Let him say whatever he wants. Like, this stuff is too important to not discuss. It's just too important. And I don't care what happens at this point.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'd like to have Father Maudsley back on at some point on my channel. His video and my video with Father Ripperger are my two most popular so far.
Yeah, those are two. Yeah, he's up there on ours too. Like even the kid that got the priest for me for the pilgrimage. The priest was like, yeah, he's like the kid that's because that kid's coming on the pilgrimage too. Okay. And he's like, yeah, he really likes your show. He likes Father Maudsley a lot. I was like, me too.
Yeah. I still need to watch Father Maudsley's videos on his Rumble channel. I still haven't gotten around to that.
I'm fully on board with what he's put forth at this point. Yeah, I don't know. All this stuff has just been kind of like tumbling through my brain for the past couple of days, and I just The Venezuela stuff. Yeah. It's like, it's not Iraq. So like the libertarian argument, I'm just like, that's falling flat for me. It's not Iraq. It's not, you can't blame this one on Israel. Like, yeah, sure. Israel has like their oil interest there. And they've said Venezuela is anti-Semitic, but this has nothing to do with Israel. Not really. You know what I mean? I mean, they'll always benefit from it because there's big business involved and stuff like that. But this isn't one of their, we need to overthrow this dictator so that we can do what we need to do in this region. Like you got to worry about that region over there. That's what I don't want to be involved over there. This is very different. We didn't go in and start a war. We went in and grabbed the guy. We had minimal casualties.
If it were to end here, I don't know if I really have any problem with it.
Me too.
I mean, once again,
justice.
I'm not going to say it was
pretty. I think it's pretty suspect, or I don't know if that's the right word. Yeah, I think it is. I mean, because I watched the press conference that they gave afterwards with Trump and the cabinet members talking about what happened, and Trump saying that we're going to run Venezuela basically indefinitely. Like,
well, the thing is, at this point, if you don't do anything more, America is running Venezuela we do have some sort of hegemonic power over them because we can come in and grab you at any time.
Yeah. So they basically put the vice president in, like the vice president is in. Now, this is the chick who beat Trump for the freaking Nobel Peace Prize.
No, not at all. There was talk originally that we were going to install the opposition, right? But in the lead up to this, through all the planning, we wanted meetings with the opposition leader, Machado, something like that, right? And we wanted to hear her plan, what they were going to do. Could they get enough support from the military?
Oh, she wasn't the vice president. She was the opposition.
No, she was the opposition.
Okay.
And we did not feel confident like that the opposition could actually come in and create a stable government. So we're like, well, let's just have Maduro's next in line come in and see if he's a little less bad.
Okay. And now,
well, I think Maduro's second in command, the vice president, is also a woman, and she basically,
Delcy.
According to what we're being told, she's willing to cooperate in whatever way necessary.
Matt,
like, what other option does she?
You gonna cooperate? Are you gonna cooperate? Like, let me tell you,
how good old Monroe in his cell, basically.
Listen, honey, you're gonna tell you how this is gonna work. You want to cooperate, or you want to cooperate? Because there's two ways we can go about this. So that's basically the choice she's given. So I'm like Rob said, if they could actually do this from this point out. Now, look, baby, like you hope for some relief for the Venezuelan people. You hope for like opening up of them to be able to actually have commerce and be able to bring their.
I thought it was very telling, actually, that Leo's statement really did not condemn the action at all. That all he really said was, we need to be concerned for the welfare of the Venezuelan people. And it's like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But he didn't say like, no, you shouldn't have done that or that was wrong or anything like that.
Yeah. So let's see what happens here. But I'm watching the libertarians go about their usual no foreign what, like, dude, this just isn't that.
The chat goes, Venezuela is screwed. The choice is literally between two Latinx women.
Yeah, right. you got two Spanish broads you picking between boys. I don't know what to tell you. It's just like I was like, Eric Sammons came out today. I didn't watch his video, but I'm sure he just regurgitated what Dave Smith said. I just wasn't going down that road. I wanted to actually get kind of a feel for what's actually going on. And I still don't know, like, what the hell do we know about Venezuela? Like, what I thought was interesting is that they did use identical propaganda for the American people for Iraq and this. And I don't think they need to anymore. Like, I think what Trump's doing is just coming out and saying like, yeah, we're coming in for the oil is a better propaganda tool. Like, just come out and if you come out and tell me why you're actually doing this, I'll be on board.
I wish Trump was maybe like, the oil is the part of it, but not because we necessarily need it's a strategic, we're doing it for the interest of the United States. That
he's just Trump. He just
you need to say that,
but he's not capable of that. Like,
no, I know.
It's not just that we need the oil; it's that you need Russia and China out of there. Like, they have to get there. It's just like we had to take the Panama Canal back. Like we needed to take
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Panama Canal back because China ran the Panama Canal
Right.
and they had control over every bit of goods that were coming in and through, going to California to.
One thing people aren't realizing with this operation is like you see the left complaining about how we murdered 32 Cuban soldiers, right? People don't realize what that actually means. Like Maduro's security detail were Cuban soldiers, not soldiers from Cuba. They were actual soldiers of the Cuban military guarding him.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a reason for that. It's because Venezuela and Maduro, they were a client of Russia and China. And Russia and China used
Cuba,
Cuba to keep Venezuela in line.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
they
so
were
now
literally
that
running
opens
Venezuela.
up. Now that opens up, what do we do with Cuba? Because Cuba's 90 miles off the southern tip of Florida, and Venezuela's on the opposite side of that. So it's like, what do we do?
Rubio's
like, there's
preparing his whole life for that.
whole life for this, man. Like, you have to think about how crazy the Cuba thing has been. Like, you go back to the Cuban Missile Crisis, and you go back, like, all this stuff. And Trump is just the maniac crazy enough to go in and say, we don't care, we're taking Cuba too. Like he'll just do it. I don't like. There's something so sick about it. It's like you gotta respect it. Like, but like, what is the blowback from all this stuff, man? I don't know. We don't know.
I do think you'll see Europe continue to pull away from us. I think that's pretty clear.
I think so too. Yeah,
Europe's
going to continue to pull away.
I think we'll get more active in other Latin American nations. Cuba, likely Colombia, likely Mexico, which honestly, like, if we can create stable partnerships there, and I'm not saying like nation building, I don't care if they vote or have a democracy, but if we get someone in Venezuela who is technically a dictator that's not starving or murdering their people and is willing to work with us, I don't mind, and if we can create some stable partnerships between us and a few countries down there, I take that
Mexico,
over.
South America, right? Like
it makes more sense than Europe and Canada.
Well, I know Majorian's like using foul language, but like Europe, like there's nothing left for us there. There's really not. Like there's something going on with their brain over there. They're just totally caught up still with the woke nonsense and like they're still in that world.
Well, it's I'm not going to say I agree with the premise I'm about to lay out entirely, but there is something to it, I think. And I've seen it put a few ways on Twitter and memes and in threads and stuff. But basically, if you had for 400 years, you had the best, brightest, most adventurous of the Europeans leave Europe and come to the United States.
Yeah,
you had that generation after generation after generation.
It was the land of opportunity, and it was, and yeah, and there's also a bit of like.
So now there are just beta Europeans left. Is that what you're saying?
Well, Matt, the Holocaust narrative
seems that way,
really
man.
did. The Holocaust narrative gripped.
I mean,
Europe.
what you get left is Gavin Ashenden.
The Holocaust narrative.
You want to laugh at that.
It's funny. The Holocaust narrative, like, it destroyed Germany, like destroyed it. For 4 generations now, like the German men they're just, I don't know, man. Like you think about what Germany was capable of, and then after World War II, they're just decimated, like just emotionally, mentally, spiritually drained totally. Europe has lost all of its spiritual heritage, right? Like we're going to Italy.
But don't you think that the evil of the Nazi ideology had anything to do with that at all? Just to play the devil's advocate.
I think that
I think you had the destruction of a whole generation of German men
in the war itself.
In the war itself. Right. And then the fact that the women who survived were all raped, literally by the
Russians.
Yeah.
Right. So like they're not even German anymore. They're Russian. Like they're Soviet. Like they're women. No, Matt. If you knew what happened to Germany after the war. Like if you knew what happened to Germany after the war, it was
80% of women
systematic rape
between the ages of 8 and 80% were raped.
Yeah, just
by
raped
Soviets.
and just. I mean, it just they totally destroyed it. It was ethnic cleansing in a eugenic sense. Like they eugenically cleansed them by just polluting their DNA with Russian Soviet blood, you know. But not just that, like even England, man, it's a former shell of itself, and France too, like all of them. It's like it's all just they betrayed their God. When you do that, man, like it's just you think nothing of allowing the enemy in, you think nothing of your inheritance, you think nothing of any of that stuff. Like I'm going to Italy and I'm going to see like the treasures of Christendom, which it's like, man,
more like the ashes. You're going there to see the ashes.
It's kind of what it is. You're going to see the remnants of the treasures of Christendom. And part of me thinks it might be my last opportunity to go. Like part of me really thinks that. Like I don't, and I'm like, I better get one last trip, and I want my children to see their heritage. I want my children to see what their ancestors built, and that's kind of why I'm going. And
there you go.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna wrap this one up. We went longer than typical. It was fun night back. Locals was definitely more fun than because Rob, honestly, this is what I wanted to talk about tonight, but I didn't. I think we could release this as a segment.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we could release this as a segment, and even the Jonathan Rumi clip is a good clip. Oh, all right.
You got to release the Pelican Plus line, I think.
Oh, it's already out.
No, that's already out.
That's on YouTube.
I mean, okay, it isn't good fun. Like,
I know. That's why I laughed at it. But dude, it's in good fun, except when people are like super sensitive. Like you know, a lot of the guys in that whole outfit are like super sensitive. Like they can't take a joke. That's what it comes down to. Like if somebody makes a joke about me, I'm gonna laugh. About it.
I'll be honest. Half of it wasn't good fun. Half of it is because of what you just said.
Like they can't joke about themselves. They don't laugh about, like if somebody takes a shot at me, I'm gonna laugh at it, especially if it's funny. Like
yeah, right, exactly.
You know? If something's funny, it's funny.
I mean, look at the videos Taffy makes of us every week.
Who is
I will say Taffy makes our intro videos, but Taffy, thank you for always making us look thinner than we actually are. I appreciate it.
Yes, that's a solid.
I'll be ripped by Lent, but until then. All right, man. We're gonna wrap this up. Matt, thank you for coming. I'm sorry I babbled over you for most of the show, but it's always fun to get you on.
It's fun to listen to.
I went on quite a tangent on locals tonight, so all right, Rob, take us out, bro. Petered out on this one.
Yep, sure did.
It went in with a bang and out with a whisper.